Hello and welcome to this BoardDocs subscriber webinar series. Today we will be featuring Metropolitan Community College, and I'm pleased to be joined by Cindy Johnson. Today's topic will be finding solutions with BoardDocs for your community college. Cindy, it's good to have you. It's wonderful to have you today. I know, Cindy, I'll just do a brief introduction so everyone knows who you are. Cindy Johnson is the manager of board services and a special assistant to the chancellor of Metropolitan Community College in Kansas City. And since 2010, she's been serving in this position as secretary of the MCC Board of Trustees. Cindy, it's great to have you today.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to join the webinar and share our experience with BoardDocs today.
Wonderful. As we get into this, Cindy, I'd love it if you could just kick things off and tell the attendees a little bit about your district.
Well, we are a metropolitan area district with 6 sub-districts that our trustees represent, our 6 trustees. They are elected trustees, and we are a public institution. So, there are special things that we need to pay attention to that BoardDocs has helped us with. The board at MCC has a legislative responsibility to formulate our policies for the institution, and also they have oversight of things such as the budget and so forth. But basically, they override all decisions made here at the institution. And we're a pretty old institution. We've been here since 1915, so it's pretty established in the community.
Well, that's great. That's wonderful. Well, Cindy, as we get into the topic today of what BoardDocs has done for you and what it can do for other community college districts, I think I'll do a quick overview of who BoardDocs is, so for those who are maybe not as familiar. So BoardDocs is an advanced board management solution. At the essence of what we do, we simply help people create, manage, and publish board-related documents from any type of device. So no software to install, no hardware to maintain, which is wonderful for IT directors out there. Currently, we have over 2,700 subscribers in all different walks of government. We have a very large and growing community college district base as well. And one of the things I am so proud of being part of BoardDocs is our 98% subscriber retention rate. People come to BoardDocs and they stay at BoardDocs because of how easy the solution is, how reliable the solution is, and then, of course, our support. Our analytics show that 9 times out of 10, when a subscriber calls in with a question or an issue, that they're going to get a live person on the phone 9 out of 10 times. 80% of the time, we fix that problem on that call. So it's a wonderful experience for our subscribers. Great. So Cindy, tell the attendees, what was the goal for implementing a board portal solution for board as BoardDocs is? Why did you do it, and how did you approach the goal of bringing it into the district?
Well, the reason we started looking at some products such as BoardDocs was mainly to increase a lot of efficiencies, such things as the paper that we were dealing with, the time and money involved with as many as 50 to 80 copies, depending on how many we might expect at any given board meeting of a document that might have anywhere from 100 to 200 pages, was rather daunting on the expense and time involved to deal with all the paper and putting things in notebooks and so forth. Some of the other efficiencies that we were looking at were a reduction of errors. So, for instance, prior to using BoardDocs, anyone who had agenda items for the board meeting had to email them to me. And, we have a dozen or more people who might be doing that on any given meeting. Now, if they had several different iterations and so forth, to try and track all of that, save it myself, and then make sure that we get it completed and into that paper packet was a huge time and cost in time, and then also kind of the ability for errors and wrong information to be inserted. So a lot of time reviewing and re-reviewing.
Yeah, and
With
Cindy, just real quick on that note, a lot of folks are in your position today where they're the what I like to call the single intake valve, right? All
Mhm.
the emails, everything from those departments are coming to you, and you're copying and pasting, or you're getting a piece of paper and scanning, and you're putting it into either Microsoft Word or whatever your manual solution is. So, and we'll talk about this more, but that workflow, the ability to allow other departments to really have access, it was key and part of the efficiencies that you're talking about there.
That's correct. That's correct. And then another efficiency that we were searching for was the ability to search through our previous board packets so that we could say some things that come up just once in a great while and we want to see how it was handled in the past. We can easily look for things now. So that was another solution that we were looking for, is to easily find, easily search our board files. And coincidentally, we found out that we could not only search our own, but other public institutions to learn how they might have handled other things or products they might have used and so forth. The last thing that we were interested in was having more transparency available to the general public with regard to our board materials, which are public files. And prior to finding a board portal solution such as BoardDocs, we had to have people call me as the secretary request certain files. Then they had to be copied or scanned. However, we were going to present those to the requester. And as a public entity, we have to be able to do that within 3 business days. So now it's out there, it's available to the public. They can search for it themselves, and they can print what they need. And so it, again, is another efficiency that we were looking for. When we approached this, we decided we needed to gather everyone who had a vested interest and who participated in the process. So we formed a committee, and we, as a committee, developed an RFP based on the needs that the group identified. And then we selected from the submitters the groups or the organizations that we wanted to have a presentation from. And we were able to do that, and then from that identify what we thought was the best solution for us here at Metropolitan Community College, which ended up being BoardDocs.
That's wonderful. You know, one of the things that you bring up with this list of efficiencies, the decreasing paper cost, is something called total cost of ownership. So a lot of people will look at BoardDocs and see an investment up front, and not realize that over time and very quickly, efficiencies are gained that actually decrease your cost of ownership. So it's actually more expensive for most people to continue in a manual process than it would be to invest in BoardDocs.
I would agree with that. I would agree.
Yeah. Well, great. Well, let's continue to talk. You're really a game changer here by bringing in BoardDocs. We're going to talk about workflow. We're going to talk about last minute items, and we're going to also talk about minutes. So those are the 3 main things we're going to chat about today in only 30 minutes, of course. Now, but there's so many other things that I know that Cindy and many districts like Cindy's take advantage of. But we're going to go ahead and start with the workflow piece. Cindy, tell us about workflow. I know that you have a quote up here about how important it was to have that central portal and to allow other department staff heads or department folks to be able to put information in. Give us a little background about what you were doing before and how workflow really changed what you do now.
Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, the workflow was basically through email and many times phone calls to me. And so I was managing, with all the other 100 emails I might get in any given day, all of these incoming items, submissions for our board meetings, which I had to kind of flag and identify and then pop into a folder and then proof, edit, return to them via email. As you can imagine, there was a lot of going back and forth. There was problems, particularly if someone had submitted something and then at the last minute they said, oh, we needed to make a change, and if they didn't make sure I got that, it might be missed. So again, it was me constantly monitoring email for these incoming documents, constantly monitoring that it was the latest version. Now, when the individuals on the, well, I call them end users in-house, they are able to create their own board items right in the board portal. So it's created in the actual document or place we're going to use it, we're going to reference. And so we have a process in place by which these things are approved. So someone in purchasing, for example, is submitting a bids item, and then their supervisor will proof it, and eventually the vice chancellor will proof it. If at any step along the way someone catches something and says, no, this isn't quite right, they can reject the item, request the mistake, or not mistake, but the correction or edit that needs to be made, and then it's resubmitted.
Yeah, and Cindy,
So
I have this up for you right now so we can kind of walk through this, right? Again, I would log in. I would only be able to see my agenda items. I have a draft templates for all the different types of agenda items that I might be responsible for. And let's say that I'm in finance and I have budget. I can right click and I can duplicate my template. And then from there, once I duplicate that template, I can go in and edit it. So for example, if I have an item here, I simply would click the edit button and I would be able to put in the drop down of what the new subject is, what type of is it. I would be able to put in any type of information with our templates already pre-built, and we have the ability to use a editor to drop in logos. If I wanted to drop in a logo like this and drop that in, very easy to do. I could drop in a table if I wanted to drop in a table. So it's very, very simple. And then you have all of your track changes too. Like Cindy, you were just mentioning, as this goes through workflow, it can be changed. And then the last thing someone would do is once they get all of their agenda item detail into the record, they would simply then choose the tree. And that tree is a sequence of how it would be approved. And once they're ready, they would simply click save or submit or route, and then they could be able to route this to another person.
yeah, that's been a great time saver for us all, the ability to have those documents just right there as drafts. And, it's sometimes as little as just changing dates and then inserting the new material. So it's pretty slick.
Yeah, that's great. And one of the things here is the workflow. So you actually have an audit history that shows who did what and when, right? Has this been helpful from an accountability standpoint, Cindy?
It absolutely has, because at any point in time I can look and see where that document is sitting, and if I'm needing to go ahead and get it wrapped up, I can contact that person, or I have the ability to force approve something if they're not, say they're in a meeting and we're kind of texting back and forth. They can say, okay, it's ready to go. Go ahead and force approve that for me, and then it's done.
That item, I just did exactly what you said. It's been force approved, and then that audit trail would actually show that you force approved it. Now, not everyone has that capability, right, Cindy? You as a document publisher, maybe another executive would be given that capability, so you have the ability to understand what's in workflow, what needs your attention, and so forth. So if I were you, Cindy, I would come into View Agenda, and I would scroll through here, and I would say, oh, here's an item in workflow. I could click on that item, be able to scroll down to the bottom, see who's there. And your example, if I wanted to then force approve, I could force approve it.
That's correct.
That's great. What a great efficiency that so many folks in your seat can resonate with, right? Being that one intake valve and now being able to allow others to help is so tremendous to your organization.
It is. It has really reduced my stress level on many occasions. I can verify that.
Well, that is a good thing. So we love that. We love to hear that. Well, so that's workflow. Now, what the second item that you thought was most important to talk about today was those last minute items, those last minute edits. Tell the attendees a bit about that.
Well, that's something that's been a tremendous relief for me because I don't know about other people, but sometimes we have what are called slip sheets. So after the board packet has been made available to the public and to the board, if we have any changes or additions or we're removing any items, it's considered a slip sheet at that point. So before, with the paper product and maybe 50 copies, I would many times have to change out the agenda. And this was all a physical process. Have everything printed, change it out, an agenda, and then adding something, sometimes removing something and putting something else in. And if that happens a half an hour before a meeting and you're trying to scramble and do that when you're actually planning on other preparations that need to be made during that time, it can be pretty stressful, not to mention time consuming. So now if I need to, say I need to edit an item that's already there, I can go right into that item with the edit button. We can make any changes necessary to that item and then save it, and it's done. We would just reference at the beginning of the meeting what slip sheets we had so that they are aware that we've added something or changed something, and it's just done in a matter of seconds to minutes as opposed to something that might take as long as 15 minutes to a half an hour before.
Yeah, the time savings is amazing. And I just showed that example of simply clicking on that edit button, right? And being able to add something. If you had an attachment you wanted to add, you need to drop in a quick table, whatever that might be, very, very simple. We also talked about moving items around. So Cindy, you might get a call from the chancellor's office saying, hey, minutes approval, can we move that up? And in your world, now it's simply drag, drop, and look at that. It just renumbered everything.
Right, right. We love that. That has come in handy when we have closed meetings and we might decide, you know what, we were going to do that at the beginning, but now we want to push it to the end. Boom, I can do it. Just like he's showing right here. It's so simple.
I want to take an item out and put it in this category. I can simply do that and it renumbers everything. Another example, I think Cindy, you said was a last minute item, right? So why don't I go ahead and walk folks through that, and you can kind of tell us about your scenarios.
Well, for instance, if we have a last minute addition, say there's a purchase, a large purchase because an HVAC went down, and this has happened to us before, like the week of or day of, and it's a very large purchase. We already have a contract with a vendor that's been board approved, and so we know that's in place, but we just need to get the purchase approved because it's a critical need. We can add that in no time. We can just add a new purchase requisition item into BoardDocs and attach whatever the bid was or the contract that we need to show that. We can pop that in the public content, any documents that we need to provide to the board so that they can see evidence that we've done the work that we need to do per their requirements. And again, it can be done in mere minutes. Whereas before, just like a slip sheet I was talking about, it might take 15 minutes to a half an hour depending on adding an agenda item changes the agenda, and everything's renumbered and so forth. So this has been a tremendous help that we can just do this so quickly.
That's great. And you can see here in a matter of seconds, I simply created a new item. I've changed the subject, the type. I've put in some information because we're going to take action on this. I could easily put more information into this content area. And then, of course, I could, if I wanted to, drag and drop an attachment. If I wanted to grab an attachment and drop it in, or simply click OK and drop in that attachment. And like you said, in a matter of minutes, I click the Save button, and now I have a brand new item for approval of HVAC. So that's simple, that quick, and that easy.
And I might point out, as people are seeing, there's administrative content and executive content as well. So if there is content that is not something that the public needs to or should see, and you just want the board to see it or just your administrative level users, you can put those in different areas so that is there for them to see, but not everyone has to see it.
Right, and based on their username and password and their role, and as they authenticate into the system, they would be able to see it, whereas no other folks, administrators or public would. So instead of building two or three different agendas, you build one agenda with different login and authentications by role. It makes it that much simpler.
Yep.
Great. All right. So last minute items, a lot easier now in the board docs world. Now the other item I know you were very excited to talk about were the minutes. So we're leaving the agenda world and now we're talking about in the meeting. So tell us about how minutes have changed since you've been using board docs.
Well, minutes for me before was either a handwritten process early on or until I kind of switched to a laptop. But again, it was taking them, everything was being typed up or handwritten. Now there's a lot that is done through BoardDocs. When you activate a meeting, you take your roll call and you identify which trustees or board members are present, and then it's set for the remainder of any action items that need to be having a roll call vote on.
So Cindy, I'll
So,
go ahead and I'll run with you on this as you're
okay,
explaining it. So I just went into a featured meeting, and I'm going to click the launch meeting control button, and that will go ahead and take that agenda and make it into a minutes template. So click of a button. Now you have a minutes template, right? And you mentioned you start the meeting, take your roll call. Let's say Sarah Smith's not at the meeting. We're going to unclick her and click save. And behind the scenes, through this software, a minutes document is being built, right?
that's right.
So I'm going to take discussion items, and I know this doesn't happen often, but I want to show the capability that if there was a change and they wanted to move something, you can certainly do that. It won't change the agenda, but it changes the order of the minutes, of course, right? And then of
That's
course
correct.
you mentioned. So take me through how you would take a motion and vote here, and I'll go ahead and replicate that.
Okay, so typically we have a recommended action built into the agenda so that the trustee can, um, pretty much just read from that. And so the motion is set, and if it needs to be edited, I can do that quickly. But once we have them make the motion and there's a second, then I can very quickly take the vote. And normally I just mark unanimous and then deselect, just click the button who's not there. Not that's already there. If someone's not there, their name is not going to show up on the vote.
Correct.
But
Like you see Sarah
someone,
Smith, Sarah Smith's name is
right,
not there, right? But I just
right, right,
deselected executive one because let's say they said no,
right. So then that's easier than clicking each one. So then
right?
you take your vote, you save it, and so you've already got that done. If you need to make any, if, for instance, if a trustee asks us to please note a comment, then I can do that in the comments section really quickly. And all of this is behind the scenes, as he said, so no one is seeing what I'm writing. I can be as cryptic as I need to be, just to get down the essence, or if I have time, I can really be typing it out the way I think it's probably going to need to be in the minute.
That's right. And then you also have access to all the content. So if there's an attachment or something you need to reference, it's all right there for you as well, which
Right.
is really nice. And then from a board member view, the board would actually be able to see. I'm going to kind of put on my board hat now. The board members would be able to see an item. They would be able to type in notes. So notes go
Mm-hmm.
here. So it's a very interactive type solution, not only for Cindy, but also for the board to be able to have better governance during the meeting as well. And then when that meeting is completed, you're able to actually drop the meeting into the minutes and be able to edit it from there. So if I clicked on edit minutes and I said load from meeting control panel, it would drop in exactly what we just did, and then Cindy has the full frame of editing tools to be able to edit the
Mhm.
minutes and then release and publish when ready.
Right. So it's your framework's already there. For me, it's just been a matter of going in and cleaning up some of the comments, which doesn't take long, and I might do a little bit of formatting, and then it's done.
Yeah, really easy to do. I can highlight, I can change whatever I'd like to do. Well, fantastic. This has been great, Cindy. I know that we don't have all the time to show everyone what Board Docs does. We could probably be here forever, but I'm glad you were able to
Yes.
show us those top three. As we end the webinar, tell us a little bit about the impact that Board Docs has had for your district.
I think one of the biggest impacts beyond all those efficiencies, because there's just too many to list, but for us, it was a matter of organizational transparency and availability to the public. So that's important in our state, and I don't know how other states are, but for us, that was huge. And all those efficiencies and the time savings, and just to have everything readily available, and the meta search in particular, we didn't talk too much about that, but for instance, if you're trying to create a new policy, and this would have come in handy for us when we were going to a tobacco-free institution inside our facilities and out, we could have done what's called a meta search to look through quickly to find out if other institutions had gone through a process like that and see what their policy was and so forth. So I think that expands it so much more beyond just our internal files, so that we're able to collaborate perhaps with other entities without spending a lot of time calling and so forth. So I think those are the big, large impacts other than the efficiencies that we discussed. So Tom, are you still there? I'm not hearing anything right
Yeah,
now.
my apologies. Yes, I was just showing
That's okay.
everyone what your example of search. So that's a great example to be able to bring up that meta search and that search capability. So that's a fantastic example. The other thing I know we were talking about as we put a cap on this, strategic goals. Accreditation is a big deal for community college districts, and to be able to track goals, that's something that you're looking to do moving forward, correct, Cindy?
That's right. We hadn't used this yet because we were just undergoing a redevelopment of our strategic plans, and we literally just finished that, and the board approved it a month ago. So now we're ready to start tying agenda items to our strategic plans, and this will help us track our KPIs, our key performance indicators. And we're excited to get that going here. Probably with the first of the year, we'll start asking all agenda item submitters to identify the strategic plan goals that they tie to. So this will be great when we start preparing for our next accreditation review. We'll already have this tracking mechanism in place, and that's going to save a lot of time and effort down the road
Yeah,
with
and
regard to.
right, you'll be able to see right here that I could put in a goal, put the content of that goal in, and then every time that goal is discussed, it can be attached to an agenda item. So you actually have a goal progress report here. So it's very simple for me if I want to print out this goal progress report, or if I simply want to click on an item, it will navigate me to the agenda so I can look at more information around this specific goal. So very interactive and very intuitive.
Yes, it is. We're very pleased, I will say that.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, Cindy, it has been a pleasure. I guess is there any last minute guidance that you can provide to any of the attendees out there who might be looking to bring on a board portal solution like BoardDocs, really want it, but maybe unsure about how to navigate?
Well, I think that the best thing I can advise is just really to get in touch with BoardDocs. They will, set up a group meeting, an individual meeting. They're willing to come to your institution or do it via webinar, video conference, and really explore all the capabilities, because we just touched on a few things and there's so much more to it, and it's such a robust system, but it's such a user-friendly system. I can say that I have very, very rarely, and it's probably end user more than BoardDocs, have I ever had to call for assistance, but like he said, they're available 24/7. And if you do decide to go with BoardDocs, the training is phenomenal. So the training is just really a great thing, and they trained all of our end users, but it's such an easy product that now, I don't really feel like new people need the training by BoardDocs specifically. We can kind of do the training in-house because it's just so user-friendly. So, I would encourage people to just explore more about BoardDocs and what it can do for their institution.
Well, Cindy, thank you so much for your time today. You've been truly amazing to listen to and to hear your feedback and to see what you've done and what the district's done by bringing on BoardDocs. Metropolitan Community College District, a big thanks to you and all the staff there for being a subscriber. And Cindy, thank you so much for your time today and participating in this subscriber webinar series. Appreciate your time.
Well, you're very welcome. I was happy to assist today.
Excellent. Well, thank you all for joining us. Until next time, we hope you have a great day and join us on our next BoardDocs subscriber webinar series. Until then, take care and goodbye.